The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone present to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the absence of clergy, let us bow our heads in a moment of silent reflection or prayer. Reading of the Journal.
In Senate, Tuesday, May 18th, 2021, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The Journal of Monday, May 17th, 2021 was read and approved. On motion, the Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the Journal stands approved as read. Presentations of petitions. Messages from the Assembly. The Secretary will read.
Senator Reichlin Melnick moves to discharge from the Committee on Local Government Assembly Bill number 3489, substituted for the identical Senate Bill 4855, third reading calendar 754.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Mayer moves to discharge from the Committee on Elections Assembly Bill number 2168, substituted for the identical Senate Bill 6216, third reading calendar 879.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Breslin moves to discharge from the Committee on Environmental Conservation Assembly Bill number 6389, substituted for the identical Senate Bill 5725, third reading calendar 980.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Mannion moves to discharge from the Committee on Disabilities Assembly Bill number 7120A, substituted for the identical Senate Bill 6382A, third reading calendar 989.
Substitution so ordered. Messages from the Governor. Reports of standing committees. Reports of select committees. Communication and reports from state officers. Motions and resolutions. Senator Gianaris.
Thank you, Madam President. Amendments are offered to the following third reading calendar bills. This is a lengthy list. By Senator Kaplan, calendar 82. By Senator Hurlman, calendar 208. By Senator Skoufis, calendar 464. Senator Hurlman, calendar 515. Senator Kaplan, calendar 561. Senator Kaplan, calendar 562. Senator Rivera, calendar 666. Senator Kaplan, calendar 753. Senator Brooks, calendar 758. Senator Sanders, calendar 800. Senator Gorin, calendar 898. Senator Parker, calendar 906. And Senator Comrie, calendar 411.
The amendments are received and the bills shall retain their places on the third reading calendar.
I also wish to call up the following bills, which were recalled from the Assembly and are now at the desk. Senate print numbers 523, 412, 4485, 1442, 612A, 2936, 2819, and 1201.
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 406, Senate Print 523 by Senator Hoylman, enactment of civil practice law and rules. Calendar number 438, Senate Print 412 by Senator Biaggi, enactment of mental hygiene law and the racing, pari-mutuel wagering, and breeding law. Calendar number 817, Senate Print 4485 by Senator Harcum, enactment of private finance housing law. Senate Print calendar number 87, Senate Print 1442 by Senator Addabbo, enactment of agriculture and markets law. Calendar number 330, Senate Print 612A by Senator May, enactment of the elder law. Calendar number 335, Senate Print 2936 by Senator Kaminsky, enactment to amend the environmental conservation law. Calendar number 772, Senate Print 2819 by Senator Addabbo, enactment of the general business law. Calendar number 657, Senate Print 1201 by Senator Harcum, enact to amend the public health law.
Which these bills were passed.
The Secretary will call the roll on reconsideration.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White, ayes 62.
The bills are restored in its place on the third reading calendar.
I offer the following amendments on the aforementioned bills.
The amendments are received.
Please recognize Senator Lanza.
Senator Lanza.
Thank you, Madam President. On behalf of Senator Jordan, on page 31, I offer the following amendments to calendar number 680, Senate Print number 2091, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
The amendment is received and the bill shall retain its place on the third reading calendar.
I apologize, Madam President. Additionally, Madam President, on behalf of myself, Senator Lanza, on page 34, I offer the following amendments to calendar number 709, Senate Print number 4299, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
The amendment is received and the bill shall retain its place on the third reading calendar. Senator Gianaris.
At this time, Madam President, we're going to take up two resolutions at once. So please take up previously adopted Resolution 61 and previously adopted Resolution 409, both by Senator Parker. Read those resolutions and recognize Senator Parker.
The Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 61 by Senator Parker, memorializing Governor Andrew M. Cuomo to proclaim May 18, 2021 as Haitian Flag Day in the state of New York. Senate Resolution 409, also by Senator Parker, memorializing Governor Andrew M. Cuomo to proclaim May 20th, 2021 as Haitian Unity Day in the state of New York in conjunction with the observance of Haitian Heritage Month.
Senator Parker on the resolutions.
Madam President, I rise first to say it's about time that we had a president presiding from Brooklyn. Let me just put that on the record. As you know, I represent the 21st District in Brooklyn, which is part of Canarsie and part of Flatlands, but principally Flatbush and East Flatbush, Midwood, Ditmas Park, Windsor Terrace, and Park Slope. I represent the largest concentration of people of Haitian descent outside of Haiti in the world. And so it's really a pleasure and an honor to have an opportunity to both recognize in this grand body both Haitian Unity Day, but also Haitian Flag Day, referred to as Déjeuner, which was May 18th. Anybody who knows Haitian people know that they are very proud people, and rightfully so. Haiti was the first country in the Western Hemisphere to get its freedom out of colonization from any country, but in this case, from France. And it wasn't an easy fight that they went through. And they say that the second biggest fight they went through outside of freedom was trying to decide on their flag. And it took a number of times, and they eventually came up with red, white, and blue, and a slogan that reads, "Liberty or death." And they finally, again, it wasn't until May 18th, 1803, in which the flag of Haiti was decided upon. And Catherine Fallon sewn the original flag on the last day that they had put together a Congress to decide on the flag. And again, there's no really greater symbol of their everlasting dedication to independence or the triumphs that Haitian people have gone through than their flag. And again, we celebrate that time and Haitian Unity Day around the same time. And Haiti is an island nation not too far from the U.S., about 90 miles or 100-something miles away from Florida. And again, the fight that it went through to get away from France was big. Wanted to acknowledge the contribution of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who actually was born into enslavement, but became the general of the army and really was one of the major tacticians of the Haitian independence. And really, J.J. Dessalines is really is somebody who is really known as kind of the major tacticianer of the Haitian Revolution. And of course, if anybody knows anybody, it's Toussaint Louverture, who was essentially, the head of the revolution, kind of the George Washington, if you may, of Haiti, even though he preceded George Washington. But unfortunately, went to France to negotiate a treaty, and the treacherous French captured him and executed him. But that really was, in part, the strength of the Haitian people who saw the death of their leader and recommitted themselves to freedom. Haitian people have migrated to the United States really since the 1700s. And they're saying that there are probably over 200,000 people of Haitian descent in New York, right? I think it's probably more than that. I think that's what the census is saying, but I think we have that many in my district. But it's become a place in which Haitian people have contributed a great deal, to our communities across the state of New York, but particularly in places like New York. Some of the people, as I talk about Haitian Unity Day, some of the Haitian people who have given to the United States are people like Jean-Baptiste de Ponce Sebel, who was born in Haiti, who was the first permanent resident of Chicago and is known as the father of Chicago. You're talking about people like Jean-Michel Basquiat, who was a Brooklyn native, became famous for his profound and thought-provoking artwork and his social commentary to discuss social inequities and to promote social mobility amongst contemporary artists. His work is really, really influential, by other artists and even poets. Pay attention to Basquiat and the work that he's contributed. John James Audubon. So people don't know when they talk about the Audubon Society that you're talking about somebody who is of Haitian descent. Born in Haiti, and again, one of the founders of the Audubon Society in the late 1800s, and is named after him because of his reputation and his deep appreciation and concern around the natural world. And his name has become synonymous with avian life, wildlife protection, and environmental conservation all over the world. And then we have, the folks in the state legislature, people like Rodney's Bouchat, the Assemblywoman of the 42nd Assembly District in Brooklyn, people like Clyde Bonnell from Queens, Kim Jean-Pierre, Assemblywoman from Suffolk, Long Island, Farah Souffant Forrest, also from Brooklyn, and Mathilde Frontis from Coney Island in Brooklyn as well, all part of the Haitian delegation here in the state legislature. And so, again, I want to thank everybody in this body for giving me the time and yourselves celebrating Haitian culture and the contributions that they have made, and the indelible mark, not for just the progression of equality and independence, but upon the developmental of the eclectic expressions of art, literature, politics, economics, and all endeavors in life. Haitian Americans have had an impact on the United States, not just here in New York, but really across the country. And today, we recognize them and we congratulate them for all their accomplishments and for their contributions to the great state of New York. Thank you, Madam President. I vote aye.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Reichlin Melnick on the resolutions.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator Parker, for introducing these resolutions. I'm proud to rise in support of these resolutions for Haitian Unity Day and Haitian Flag Day, and proud to be representing most of Rockland County, which is home to the third largest community of Haitian Americans in the United States and the second largest in New York State. So under the military leadership of François Toussaint Louverture, the grandson of an African chief, and Jean-Jacques Dessalines, making the Haitian Revolution was a major turning point in the history of the world, with repercussions that extended far beyond this Caribbean nation. Under the leadership of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Haiti declared independence in 1804. The Haitian national anthem, La Dessalinienne, is named after him to honor his fervent efforts to protect the independence of Haiti from foreign intervention and imperialism. Towards the end of this revolution, the Congress of Arcaille convened to unite the command of the Revolutionary Army under one authority and to adopt a flag. The flag debate lasted the entire day, and finally the Congress adopted the blue and red bicolor, which is the flag of Haiti. It said that Jean-Jacques Dessalines himself ripped the white part of the French flag out as a symbol of freeing the Haitian people from the French oppressors. Catherine Flon, the goddaughter of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, had sewed the original flag on the last day of the Congress, and the generals swore an oath of liberty or death on the flag, which was to lead the slaves to victory and freedom. The blue and the red represent the black and mulatto Haitians banding together for independence. And after struggling for years to rid their territory of both slavery and imperialism, the Haitian revolutionaries were able to achieve these goals. There is no greater symbol of their everlasting dedication to an independent Haiti than the flag which represents their triumphs. The Haitian Revolution ignited a groundbreaking change in the history of the modern world
by enabling hundreds of thousands of African slaves worldwide and tens of thousands of free persons of color to find the wherewithal to unite in the quest for individual and collective liberty. The descendants of these revolutionaries were so proud of them that students of Haitian backgrounds within the United States dress with the colors of the flag throughout the week of May 18th, celebrating when the flag was first created. And since the 1700s, many Haitian people have migrated to the United States, resulting in approximately 200,000 Haitians residing in the state of New York, including upwards of 20,000 Haitian residents in the 38th State Senate District. This long-lasting influence that Haitian Americans have had on our country can be seen through not only the progression of equality and independence, but also upon the development of expressions of arts and literature in our culture. That's why I am proud to stand with this body to recognize May 18th as Haitian Flag Day and May 20th as Haitian Unity Day. I'm proud to support this resolution. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. The resolutions were previously adopted on January 12th and March 2nd. Senator Gianaris.
Madam President, at the request of Senator Parker, these resolutions are open for co-sponsorship.
The resolutions are open for co-sponsorship. Should you choose not to be a co-sponsor of the resolutions, please notify the desk. Senator Gianaris.
As long as we're still on motions and resolutions, on behalf of Senator Hinchey on page 31, I offer the following amendments to Calendar 664, Senate 4085, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
The amendment is received, and the bill shall retain its place on the third reading calendar.
Let's please take up the calendar at this time.
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 283, Senate Print 2241 by Senator Ritchie, an act to amend the highway law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 298, Senate Print 694 by Senator Kaplan, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 350, Senate Print 1577 by Senator Rivera, an act to amend the social services law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 593, Senate Print 2802 by Senator Bailey, an act to amend the labor law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 596, Senate Print 5490B by Senator Hinchey, an act to amend the labor law.
Laid aside.
Calendar number 640, Senate Print 5267B by Senator May, an act to amend the highway law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 694, Senate Print 5472 by Senator Hoyleman, an act to amend the real property law.
Laid aside.
Calendar number 696, Senate Print 977A by Senator Gorin, an act to amend the public authorities law and the not-for-profit corporation law.
Read the last section.
Section 6, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Senator Gorin to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. Public authorities have existed in this state for decades. They've helped to build our thruway, our subways, railroads, many of our public utilities, and so much more. But public authorities were originally created with one of the purposes being to insulate the public decisions from the elected officials of the state, including elected officials of local governments. And today we now have about 600 public authorities. So that makes it so much more important that whether it's a statewide, regional, or a local authority, there is clear transparency and strong oversight by other levels of government. And that's what this legislation does. We have an authorities budget office. It is truly an independent agency. And it mandates that all public authorities have to provide detailed information, especially information about how they spend public funds, on an annual basis. However, under current law, if they don't provide the information or they provide the wrong information, or they violate the law in some way with the information they provide, this agency has no ability to really do anything. And some public authorities believe they don't have to comply with the law at all. So this bill seeks to correct that problem. It will give public authorities, when they are violating the law, alleged to be violating the law, or omitting important information, simply the ability and plenty of time to either correct it or to state publicly why they disagree and why they believe they are in compliance with the law. Authority board members are also supposed to do educational training on the various subjects that they are involved in. Some members just ignore this. So this will establish a process that say that if you're a member of a public authority and you blatantly don't want to do any continuing legal education as is required by law, you can be removed. And I think most importantly, if somebody in a public authority knowingly and intentionally lies on public documents that they submit, this bill will now give the Authority Budget Office the ability simply to refer that information to the proper authorities. So whether it's the MTA, Long Island Power Authority, local water or sewer authorities, or local IDAs, or any other authority in the state, we will finally have some real oversight. All authorities work for the people and are accountable to the people, and none of them are above the law. So I vote in the affirmative, Madam President. Thank you.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 696, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, and Steck. Ayes 50, nays 13.
The bill is passed. Calendar 709 is high and will be laid aside for the day.
Calendar number 754, Assembly number 3489 by Assemblymember Galeb, enactment of the real property tax law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 783, Senate Print 1830 by Senator Skoufis, enactment of the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 785, Senate Print 3145 by Senator Sanders, enactment of the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 1st of January.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 787, Senate Print 3676 by Senator Comrie, enactment of the banking law and the insurance law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect September 1st, 2021.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 787, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Sereno, Steck, Tedesco, and White. Ayes 44, nays 19.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 825, Senate Print 5728A by Senator Gunardes, enactment of the Administrative Code of the City of New York.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 825, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Gallivan, Helming, Lanza, Martucci, Oberacker, O'Mara, Rath, and Ritchie. Ayes 54, nays 9.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 843, Senate Print 4534 by Senator Brute, enactment of the mental hygiene law.
The bill will be laid aside for the day.
Calendar number 846, Senate Print 556 by Senator May, enactment of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 30th day, it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 858, Senate Print 6352 by Senator Addabbo, enactment of the Racing, Pari-Mutual Wagering, and Breeding Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 879, Assembly number 2168 by Assemblymember Jacobson, enactment of the election law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 880, Senate Print 1231 by Senator Gianaris, enactment of the General Municipal Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 1st of January.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 887, Senate Print 6277 by Senator Mannion, enactment of the Mental Hygiene Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 30th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Senator Mannion to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. Informed public policy comes from the gathering and analyzing of data. OPWDD has a mandate to provide services in an equitable manner to individuals in need. How are we to understand where services are needed, by whom, and are services being provided equitably across the state without this information? That's why I'm proud to sponsor legislation that requires OPWDD to include in their comprehensive 5-year strategic plan important demographic information related to age, race, ethnicity, residence type, primary language, and average Medicaid expenditures on services. This is also about openness and transparency. This demographic information is crucial to the state to fully fund services and assure that no community is left behind. A recent study found that minority communities receive disability services at rates 9 to 23% lower than white individuals, and that expenditures were nearly 50% lower for non-white participants. We need to make sure that this is not happening in New York State. OPWDD already collects demographic information. However, such information is not widely available to the public. By including demographic data in the state's comprehensive 5-year plan, the state can then appropriate necessary funding for outreach to underrepresented communities who may need additional support services. I proudly cast my vote in the affirmative, and I'm proud to sponsor this legislation. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Mannion to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 899, Senate Print 1333 by Senator Kruger, enactment of the Executive Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 900, Senate Print 1795 by Senator Bailey, enactment of the Correction Law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect on the 120th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Senator Akshar to explain his vote.
Madam President, thank you very much for your indulgence. Here in Albany, there are certain issues, in my humble opinion, that transcends politics. And when it comes to substance use disorder, that is one of those issues. We have, for the last 3 years, had very measured and deliberate conversations in the Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Committee, in the Crime Victims, Crime and Corrections Committee. I have had personal conversations with the sponsor of this bill, and we have gotten to a place today that looks completely different than we were in 2019. So I wanted to take a moment to thank the sponsor for having those, what I describe as very important conversations about what this bill looks like, what the real world implications of the bill is. And I would say this, that those who manage correctional facilities, by and large, have an incredibly difficult job to do. But medically assisted treatment programs within the confines of correctional facilities do, in fact, work. And collectively, as a state, we need a buy-in from everybody who is involved in that process. Locally, we've secured hundreds of thousands of dollars to provide this programming within the confines of correctional facilities. And I would say this respectfully, that we have not experienced the expected outcomes from those programs that we would have liked to see. So that sends a very clear message that, in fact, we must do better. This bill, as currently authored, does three things that I think are incredibly important for everyone to understand and realize. That it is a program that is in existence for those that want to participate. Not every single person must participate. And it, of course, gives the option of those in charge of correctional facilities to partner with outside agencies to provide these services, which I think is critically important. And the last issue I raise is that where we end up in terms of the financial responsibility is a far cry from where we began. We were at $4 million, we're at $20 million now. So I thank the sponsor for listening. I thank the sponsor for being willing to have meaningful conversations about getting that number up. We certainly have more work to do. 20 million doesn't come close enough to the need statewide. But I feel much better today than I did in 2019, and that's why I will be voting in the affirmative. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Akshar to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 900, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Martucci, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, and Tedesco. Ayes 48, nays 15.
The bill is passed. There's a substitution at the desk. The secretary will read.
Senator Kaminsky moves to discharge from the Committee on Finance, Senate Bill number 3476, and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 2934. Third reading calendar 903.
Substitution so ordered. The secretary will read.
Calendar number 903, Assembly number 3476 by Assemblymember Abate, enactment of the Retirement and Social Security Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 917, Senate Print 2014 by Senator Jackson, enactment of the Administrative Code of the City of New York.
Read the last section.
Section 6, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 917, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, Tedesco, and White. Ayes 43, nays 20.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 935, Senate Print 5054 by Senator Parker, enactment of the Mental Hygiene Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Senator Parker to explain his vote.
Madam President, to explain my vote, I rise to vote aye on this bill. I think this bill is critically important. There's probably no corner of this great state, or even the country for that matter, that is not, in fact, dealing with the issue of drug and substance abuse. And so it really is important for us to define what the treatment around these modalities provide. And so my bill S-5054 enacts a Bill of Rights for individuals receiving treatment in chemical dependency programs across the state. A lot of times the existing law this doesn't provide enough so people understand when they're going into these programs what they need. And so, for instance, the rights of nursing home residents, Bill of Rights, are explicitly defined in state law and required to be posted in nursing home facilities in 6 languages. We don't do the same kind of thing with drug treatment programs. The current right of a patient in a chemical dependency program is really far too obscure for the average person. And so this bill, by clearly enumerating the individual's rights and the patients for these treatment facilities, we will help provide protections and awareness to those vulnerable patients. And by requiring that the Bill of Rights be placed in conspicuous places, this legislation will provide adequate notices to patients. Now, some of these rights that we are laying out in this legislation include the right to participate in developing a treatment plan, the right for an individual to receive an explanation of the services they're going to receive, and a right to privacy of treatment. And again, we want to make sure that it's posted in a place that is conspicuous so that everyone can see it and understand what their rights are. And so I vote aye. I'm hoping my colleagues will vote aye, and I thank you for this opportunity, Madam President.
Senator Parker to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 937, Senate Print 6044 by Senator Harkins, enactment of the mental hygiene law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 942, Senate Print 1964 by Senator Brooks, enactment of the general municipal law.
The bill will be laid aside for the day. There's a home rule message at the desk.
Calendar number 945, Senate Print 4608 by Senator Palumbo, an act to authorize the town of Brookhaven, County of Suffolk, to alienate and discontinue the use of certain parklands.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 945, voted in the negative, Senator Skoufis, ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 949, Senate Print 5380 by Senator Akshar, an act to amend the general municipal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 959, Senate Print 6469 by Senator Hinchey, an act to amend the real property tax law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 966, Senate Print 2857 by Senator Kavanaugh, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 11, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 966, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Brisport and Myrie, ayes 61, nays 2.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 967, Senate Print 3791 by Senator Comrie, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 967, voted in the negative, Senator Brisport, ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 980, Assembly number 6389 by Assemblymember Fahey, enactment Chapter 141 of the laws of 2014.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 980, voted in the negative, Senator Brisport, ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 982, Senate Print 6173 by Senator Lanza, enactment Chapter 395 of the laws of 1978.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 982, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar and O'Mara, ayes 61, nays 2.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 989, Assembly number 7120 by Assemblymember Jackson, enactment Chapter 352 of the laws of 2005.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed. Senator Gianaris, that completes the reading of today's calendar.
Let's move on to the controversial calendar, please.
The Secretary will ring the bell. The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 596, Senate Print 5490B by Senator Hinchey, enactment of the labor law.
Senator Lanza, why do you rise?
Madam President, I believe there's an amendment at the desk. I waive the reading of that amendment and ask that Senator Boyle be recognized and heard.
Thank you, Senator Lanza. Upon review of the amendment in accordance with Rule 6, Section 4B, I rule it non-germane and out of order at this time.
Accordingly, Madam President, I appeal the ruling of the chair and ask that Senator Boyle be recognized.
The appeal has been made and recognized, and Senator Boyle may be heard.
Madam President, I rise to appeal the ruling of the chair. The proposed amendment is germane to the bill because the bill at hand relates to unemployment applications, and as we have seen over the past year, countless people have become unemployed, many due to the governor's closures of businesses. For over a year, the governor has handed down mandates hurting businesses and New Yorkers all across the Empire State. His decisions have grown increasingly arbitrary and are not looked at as rooted in science. More than 2 months ago, the majority in both houses passed a bill that supposedly rescinded the governor's emergency powers. But we all know it didn't change a thing, and the governor's reign continues. Here we are, almost 3 weeks after the governor's powers were originally set to expire, and we are in the same place as where we were before. One man making all the state's decisions with no oversight, nor any science to back up his arbitrary edicts and directives. We just saw it with the CDC mask guidelines. The CDC says we don't need masks. The governor kept them on New Yorkers for several days until today. The governor, who is beleaguered by scandals, is still the only person deciding how many we do with basic activities here in New York. For example, things like bringing our pets to the veterinarian. To this day, New Yorkers must wait outside while their pets go into the vet, according to guidance released by the Department of Agri-Markets over a year ago on May 20th of 2020. This order is one of dozens of superfluous orders that New Yorkers are still living under. Even as sports stadiums and large venues open up, I recently had to bring my dog Indy to the vet. I had to stay outside while she went in. You should see my dog. She's very cute, and she was scared. It's time for not only let the governor's emergencies end, but it's time to end the state of emergency and all the arbitrary directives that are set to go. Madam President, as we get towards the summer, it's going to get hotter and hotter. And as we drive down our streets and look at our veterinarians' offices, we're going to see a bunch of New Yorkers standing outside in the heat while their poor little puppies and kittens are on the inside without them. Unless the majority finds this amendment germane, I'm going to blame you. Vote the President.
Thank you, Senator Boyle. I want to remind the House that the vote is on the procedures of the House and the ruling of the chair. Those in favor of overruling the chair signify by saying aye.
Madam President, we've agreed to waive the showing of hands, record each member of the minority in the affirmative.
Without objection, so ordered. Announce the results.
Ayes 20.
The ruling of the chair stands and the bill in chief is before the House. Yeah. There's a substitution at the desk. The secretary will read.
Senator Hinchey moved to discharge from the Committee on Labor, Assembly Bill number 6337B, and substitute it for the identical Senate Bill 5490B, third reading calendar 596.
Substitution so ordered. The secretary will read.
Calendar number 596, Assembly number 6337B by Assemblymember Gunther, enactment of the labor law.
Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. The secretary will ring the bell. Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 694, Senate Print 5472 by Senator Hoylman, enactment of the real property law.
Senator Palumbo.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the sponsor yield for a few questions, please?
Will the sponsor yield?
On behalf of Senator Hoylman, the sponsor of the bill, I yield.
Senator Kavanaugh will yield.
Thank you, Senator Kavanaugh. Good afternoon. I just have a few questions regarding this, the way this changes overall real estate transactions. I see on the first page that prior to the signing of the contract for sale of a residential premises, the seller would now be required to file a mandatory disclosure statement of the property conditions. Is that accurate?
I would say that the requirement that the disclosure statement be filed is already in law, but there is a mild penalty that we understand has become kind of considered a cost of doing business rather than a penalty of where the seller, if they fail to give the form to the buyer, they pay $500 at the point title changes hands. So this bill eliminates that $500 provision and leaves in place the requirement that this form be included with residential real estate transactions. It also adds a much narrower provision to that requires landlords to make certain disclosure to renters.
Please.
Will the senator yield?
Yes, Madam President.
Senator Kavanaugh yields.
And I agree with that, Senator Kavanaugh. And just to expound on it a little bit, essentially a buyer has the option under current law to either file a disclosure statement or pay $500, give a $500 credit to the purchaser in lieu of filing that disclosure statement. The $500 option is going to be repealed by this particular bill. Is that accurate?
And bear with me because I'm not the sponsor of this bill and I'm not a member of the Judiciary Committee. I think that I have the option. I have the option not to speed or to pay a speeding ticket. Doesn't mean I don't have a requirement not to speed. In this case, there is a $500 penalty associated with not filing this form. We understand that declining to file the form has become fairly routine in the industry, and that undermines the basic intent of this law, which was passed in 2001, which is to provide information to buyers about various information that is known to the seller. And we understand that disclosure requirement broadly with respect to flooding, but also other issues, has been thwarted by the industry just adopting this practice of paying the $500 instead of providing the form.
Thank you, Senator. Would you yield for another question, please?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes, Madam President.
Senator Kavanaugh yields.
Thank you, Senator. And now, in that regard, and in my experience handling these transactions for many years, that ultimately you advise your client, look, you cannot, you don't have to do this statement for a mere $500 because obviously if you make an inaccurate statement, there could be some liability. So in that regard, when we juxtapose that, I guess my question is, how is this different than the current state of the law where, and I've litigated these cases, where if a seller actively conceals a defect, you can sue and recover damages. That's the current state of the law. So now that we're adding this disclosure statement that becomes mandatory, how would you reconcile that with that aspect where you still have remedies as we stand here today? This, I believe, expands that to some extent. Can you comment on that for me, please?
Again, it's my understanding that this provision that you pay $500 and that is perceived by many in the industry to be a substitute for filing disclosure is unusual, perhaps unique to New York. We understand that real estate transactions happen all over the country without such a mild penalty. You just said it, sort of a mere $500. That's something that has grown up in New York over the course of many years and is not, again, it is contrary to the legislative intent of the law, which is to ensure that whatever knowledge the current owner of the property has is transmitted to the potential buyer so that they can have full information that is available. So I think the effect of this will be probably that, and I'm very aware that you have a lot more experience with how these transactions play out, but I assume that you would advise clients that you might have previously advised to pay the $500, you'll now advise them that there's a legal requirement that they fill out the form, and they'll do so, and more information will be available to potential buyers.
Would you yield for another question, Senator Kavanaugh, please?
Senator Kavanaugh, will you yield?
Yes, Madam President.
The senator yields.
Thank you, Madam President. And through you, now, as far as that credit is concerned, outside of that, this form will have to be signed in every real estate transaction. Is that accurate?
So my short answer to that was going to be no, not all real estate transactions, but my counsel has provided a little more detail there, reminding me that so first of all, this is about 1 to 4 family homes. It is not about condos, it's not about co-ops. There are also other exceptions like foreclosure sales and other things where this is not required. So it's certainly not every transaction, but it is every instance where a 1 to 4 family home is sold to a buyer. It's the bulk of those transactions.
Would you yield for another question, please, Senator?
Will Senator yield?
Yes, Madam President.
Senator yields.
And thank you. I wasn't very clear with my question, so that clarifies it. So if it's a 1 to 4 family home, they must file this disclosure form. My question is there any way that this form can be waived? For example, if the parties agree to a reduced price to purchase a property as is, with all defects, which is done very commonly in real estate transactions. Is there any sort of waiver or other agreement that the parties can establish between the two of them to avoid having to file this disclosure statement?
In this provision of law or in the bill before us that would provide for that. I suppose the enforceability of such an agreement, the extent to which it undermines the intent of this law and is enforceable or not enforceable would be a question for courts. But again, the intent of this legislation, which again has been on the books for 20 years, is to ensure that there is disclosure of these things because in addition to protecting the buyer, there's a public policy purpose in ensuring that people know about things like toxins and flood risk and other things. And so the goal, in the wisdom of the legislature about 2 decades ago, was to adopt this kind of disclosure, as has been done in many states. And the goal is to get that information out so that parties who are selling might become more aware of resiliency or remedies that they could offer while they still own the property. And certainly buyers can also be aware of the potential risks and how they might mitigate those.
Through you, would Mr. Kavanaugh yield for another question, please?
Senator, will you yield?
Yes,
Senator Kavanaugh yields.
Thank you, Senator. So despite the fact that we have lawyers in New York, which is fairly rare compared to other states, the buyer has their own property inspection. They have a separate title company that is ultimately going to guarantee that there are no other encroachments and so forth. I presume the sponsor and whomever supports this legislation feels that this duty, this additional duty, is now a requirement that should be placed upon the seller and not the buyer to do their due diligence. Hence the caveat emptor, or buyer beware theory, that no longer exists with respect to this form, in my opinion. Do you have any comments in that regard?
I would, Madam President, through you, I would not characterize this in that way. First of all, the form explicitly states that this is about certain conditions and information concerning the property known to the seller. They say it is not a warranty of any kind by the seller or by any agent representing the seller. It is not a substitute for any inspection or tests, and the buyer is encouraged to obtain his or her own independent professional inspections and environmental tests, and is encouraged to check public records pertaining to the property. This form is nothing more or less than a disclosure of information that is actually known to the seller. And again, some of the information that the seller might be aware may not be readily available in public records, like the fact that there was a significant water encroachment in the basement a year ago. And so the goal here of the original legislation and the goal of what we're doing today is to just ensure that that information, to the extent it is known to the seller, is disclosed to the buyer.
Kavanaugh, on the bill, please, Madam President.
Senator Palumbo on the bill.
And Senator Kavanaugh, I appreciate answering these questions, and he's very well versed in this area, as is certainly the sponsor. But here's the problem I see with this. And as Senator Kavanaugh said, this is about simply known defects and disclosure. before the contract of sale is signed. Now let's go through this in the real sense as to how this works in the real world. This disclosure form will be filed. There's a mistake that the seller made, unintentional, and then you have an inspection, who the buyer pays, who inspects and finds a defect. Say, for example, termite damage is in this. Then the burden is then on the seller to amend this property disclosure statement as soon as practicable, and whether or not they falsely wrote or falsely filed the original disclosure statement, trying to conceal it, when ultimately the inspector caught it. They had a very thorough inspector, and they got it. They were hoping they'd miss this termite damage, which may significantly devalue the contract price. Now, what are we doing? We're litigating, because if it's significant damage, there will be a lawsuit. And the seller, the little guy, is now burdened with litigating practicability, whether they amended it in time. They're litigating whether or not this was an intentional or unintentional omission. And we have a company that's collecting money to provide an inspection. We also have a title company. Those of us who own homes have paid a significant title bill because they insure encroachments and meets and bounds, and they insure this property that basically what you're proposing to buy is actually what you're buying. So this new affirmative duty does not provide the opportunity for a seller to say, look, I'm not actively concealing anything. Under current law, if someone is in fact trying to hide something and being sneaky, they are liable. But they have now this affirmative duty to try and disclose things like, have you been denied access to the property? That's an easy one, and in Section 6. Or has anyone made a formal legal claim challenging your title to the property? Has anyone made a claim? It should actually be, are you aware of? Although later on, it is within the knowledge. If someone makes a false statement, they are liable for actual damages. So quite frankly, and the intent of this is obviously laudable, that we don't want people being sneaky or otherwise concealing defects to a buyer and selling their home as quickly as they can. But when someone buys something as is, that's part of the negotiated price. If someone is moving to Texas quickly and they're in an as-is contract for their home in New York, when are they going to be able to practicably amend the disclosure statement? Or when can they actually afford to break that contract because they need the money for their move? That this is the reality of life, that people do this. They sell their home for lesser amounts, as is, take it or leave it. Now, you may have someone who's slick, maybe even, God forbid, a lawyer who wants to represent themselves. They can litigate this to death in New York. Come on back to New York. And in my district, in Suffolk County Supreme Court, you can spend the next 4 years of your life not getting a dollar from me and fighting over whether or not you were trying to conceal that termite damage from me or that water damage that was found in the basement. So these are the type of things that $500 credit was meant to avoid. In fact, it was smart in the interest of freedom of contract and disclosure. Again, just to make it clear, active concealment still involves liability. If the seller actively conceals, in the case that I litigated, they were false walls up, $1 million home. Very clearly, there was an intent to hide defects and ceiling joists that were bowing. They didn't fix it. They put up a false wall and covered it with sheetrock. That's clearly an active concealment. But for these other things, there are issues of fact that will create lawsuits and undue burdens on the little guy, on the seller of a 1 to 4 family home. And quite frankly, Madam President, I don't think this is appropriate, and I get the intent. It's a laudable intent, but unfortunately, the way this is drafted, it's going to be an excessive duty to put on our homeowners in New York State. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, the debate is closed. The Secretary will ring the bell. Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Senator Kavanaugh to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank my colleague for the debate today. I just wanted to make a few points in explaining my support for this bill and to respond to a couple of things that have been said. First of all, I just want to, at the most basic level, remind everyone that there is a so-called little guy, or perhaps a little gal, on each side of this transaction. This is not just about the needs of property sellers, it's also the needs of property buyers. And as much as it might be burdensome for a seller to have to disclose certain information, it's equally burdensome for buyers not to have that information. The second thing is that there is no damage that's going to result from simply filling out the form and submitting it to the buyer. And in fact, even if one were to fail to disclose something on that form, the damages that a potential buyer might get would be the damage of actual harm to them for that information not having been provided in the form. That means it has to be something that a professional inspector did not detect. It means there has to be some problem with the property down the road that causes damage to the buyer. And in this case, what we'd be saying is, if that damage to the buyer is caused by a seller misleading by a seller misleading the buyer or failing to disclose information that they have access to, then the buyer would have some recourse. This bill basically fairly allocates the burdens to the respective parties. It says the seller should say what they know. It doesn't require them to say things they don't know. And again, it will help us in a broader public policy way with respect to flooding, which is one of the focuses of this bill, but also some of the other dangers that are supposed to be disclosed through this existing law, which again has been on the books for 20 years. I'd also just note that we deal with many parties that are involved in these transactions. We have not gotten any communication in opposition to this bill from realtors, from any of the formal bar associations that represent buyers and sellers in these transactions. And I think that's because this is the norm in the rest of the country, and all we're doing today is reestablishing the basic intent of this bill here in New York. So on that basis, I vote aye, Madam President.
Senator Kavanaugh to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 694, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 44, nays 19.
The bill is passed. Senator Gianaris, that completes the reading of the controversial calendar.
Returning to motions for a moment, on behalf of Senator Kaminsky on page 16, I offer the following amendments to calendar 240, Senate 1185B, and ask that said bill retain its place on third reading calendar.
The amendment is received, and the bill shall retain its place on the third reading calendar.
Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business at the desk.
Move to adjourn until tomorrow, Thursday, May 20th at 11 a.m.
On motion, the Senate stands adjourned until Thursday, May 12th. Have a good night. Sorry. May 20th at 11 a.m.